Chapter 12. As Brenda and I drove past Sequoia Field Detention, the Pixies' "Here Comes Your Man" played on the radio. Sequoia Field was originally a World War II airfield for training pilots. The barracks and buildings are now converted for a different kind of involuntary conscription. They house the daily reporting program, where those serving sentences get to go home at night after working in custody for the county from 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. every day until their time is completed. The work is menial, managed by tough guards. Inmates wear street clothes and bright orange vests emblazoned with a reflective yellow TCSO. They wash government cars, pick up and haul trash discarded on the county roadways, slop pigs raised in their own filth, being grown to be butchered to feed inmates at other county facilities, and pull weeds. Not a bad trade when the alternative is sitting stupefied in a small cell with up to 9 other men, 1 open toilet, and minimal stimulation, quiet, or food. Charles Bronson was stationed there in the 40s in the army, I said, pointing to the large hangar. Who? Brenda asked. Charles Bronson. The actor? She shrugged. Death Wish 1, 2, and 3? The Mechanic? The Magnificent Seven? She shook her head, indicating she didn't know those movies. I shook mine at the generation difference. We passed the monolithic cement and ironclad pre-trial facility just before reaching the Bob Wiley. For decades, the latter had been the only long-term detention building in the county, other than the downtown main jail. Opening Sequoia Field and the pre-trial had taken overcrowding pressures off. The Bob Wiley now housed the most violent and keep-separate men, and oddly, all women. From the road, you could see tall fences and gates lined with razor wire behind the brick, 2-story facade that had a plate glass entry in the middle. 4-foot thin slits too narrow to crawl through, with opaque glass covered in black steel bars, were spread along its exterior. As we walked to the entrance, a metal side door opened to our left. A 20-something white man with disheveled black hair in crumpled clothes walked out squinting at the daylight. Obviously, someone being released. A blue-uniformed guard said, "Don't come back," and closed the door. The freed man stood there looking around blankly, trying to orient to where he was going, physically, and with his life. It was unclear if he knew he was an hour walk from anywhere other than farmland. No one appeared to be in the parking lot for him. I made a mental note to give him a ride if he was headed our way after we finished. Brenda and I entered the echoey cement interior of reception and signed in, showing our IDs. We sat in bolted-down seats in the middle of the room. 2 Mexican women, a grandmother and her daughter, and a very active boy were the only others there. The young woman wore a purple T-shirt that read, "Just do it." "Probably not the best advice for guys in here," I whispered to Brenda, nodding to the woman's shirt. "Oh, God," she groaned quietly. The boy jumped off his chair and went around the room amusing himself, picking up, then hanging up the payphone and knocking on the windows. The exasperated mum kept saying, "Mijo, no, mijo, no, mijo," over and over. Finally, she picked him up and put him in the seat beside her. The grandmother did nothing except look ahead with a faraway stare. "I think the shirt and her words are confusing the boy," I whispered. Brenda pinched my side. A high-volume, crackling loudspeaker announced, "Monte's visit." The young woman plopped the boy into the grandmother's lap, then lazily fixed her hair as she shuffled in house shoes towards an opening metal door, making low, thunderous sounds. When the door closed, the boy grunted, trying to jump off the grandmother's lap. She held his arm firmly as he slipped off and dangled. Deftly, she twisted him with her right hand, turning his back to her, and swatted him with her left, giving him a solid spank on the bottom. The boy didn't cry. He looked back at her immediately, stopping his agitation. She lifted his legs onto her lap and rocked him in her arms, calming him into silence. Brenda and I looked at each other. "She should be a guard here," I said. "Navarro visit!" crackled over the loudspeaker, followed by a ragged clunk and the thunderous rumbling of the heavy door reopening. I nodded to the reception window as we walked through the thickly painted grey security door into a small corridor that had an identical door on the opposite side. The first door clicked, then made its noisy return, closing with a loud clang. There were several moments of silence as we waited for the next door to open. "Welcome home," Brenda chided. "Just here to see if you left property from your last stay," I said. "Ugh, I know. I hate this place." "It's okay," I said as a loud clunk sounded, and the second door began to open. "We're going somewhere you never saw when you got your DUI. Visiting." She punched me in the back. Elsewhere in the building, the white walls were very close. The ceiling was low. The door seldom opened. There was a thin window made of frosted glass, as long as his arm and as wide as his hand. He couldn't see through it, but light came in during the day. Mostly, he sat on the small bed and was quiet. Sometimes, he talked. It was cold. He had one thin blanket, and there was no pillow. He had bent the mattress over to make it like a pillow so he could sleep. He missed having a pillow. He and Victoria had big pillows her mother had brought. Those were soft, covered in cloth with flowers. They smelled good when she washed them. The light on the ceiling was always on and made it hard to sleep. A silver toilet with a sink on top was by the bed. The sink had 2 buttons. One flushed the toilet. The other made water for a few seconds. It was strange to put a toilet there, but it was okay because no one else was around when he used it. He didn't like the water. It came out slow and didn't taste good. Sometimes he had to drink it. There wasn't much to do in the room. He wondered when they would come and let him out. He asked them, but they laughed, and that made him feel like he didn't want to talk anymore. They never talked much anyway. Just said his name and pointed where to go. "Hurry! Rapido!" They were always telling him to go faster. He missed the soup his wife made, and the soft, warm chunks of meat in the brown sauce his mother would make that smelled good for the whole day while she cooked it. They would eat it with tortillas, and he liked ice in his drinks. He also liked the burritos his brother got for lunch when they painted walls, and sometimes the outside with his father. His brother ate a burrito with him almost every day before he went to Mexico. They had Pepsi, and he liked the tortilla chips with the spicy sauce in the small plastic cups. There was never enough of the sauce in the cups. They had laughed. His brother was going to get more next time. He wished he had some now. The round pink meat they gave him here with 3 pieces of white bread and a naranjo was not good. He ate it, but it was not what he wanted. He was going to tell his father to bring some food from the house when he came to talk to him. He missed Victoria. He wanted her to visit him too. Sometimes she talked to him. But she never came inside the room. She would stand outside the door and talk like they did about her mother, and she wanted friends, and she needed to go to the store. That's why she never brought him food. They didn't have money. She needed him to work with his father, and she was going to the place to put naranjos in the boxes. He wondered if she brought the naranjos they put in the bag he got with the pink meat. She knew he was hungry, and he didn't like this room, or the people who told him things like, "Go, hurry, and take a shower," always yelling, "Go, go, go, rapido, Navarro." "Navarro visit!" the one with the mustache yelled, and the door opened. He went out and put his hands behind his back like they said, and walked to where his brother came to talk to him, but he did not see him. "No, this one!" the guard told him, pointing to a different door. He walked in. It was the big room his brother was in when they talked on the phone. It was good he was going to get to talk to him without the phone and see them without the glass between them. Maybe his father had brought the food from his house. That would be good. He missed the smell, and it always tasted good. He hoped Victor brought chips and Pepsi. Maybe Victor was bringing the rings they agreed should be put together to show he and Victoria were together forever. He wanted to see her, but she wouldn't come. She didn't like it here. She would only come and talk to him on the other side of the door, but not stay. She didn't like the room. The guard moved the chains on his hands and waist. "Sit down." Then he put the chain on his feet to the table, and it rattled. There were other people in the room, but he couldn't hear their words. He tried. A woman with long brown hair in a purple shirt was talking on the phone to a Mexican man in orange clothes. Victoria might visit him like that because this was not as bad as the room. This was bigger. Only 1 or 2 people could fit in his room. But everyone could fit in here, and they could eat together. There were a lot of tables. His brother is good. Victor wanted him to be happy. They talked about him being happy when they were painting together and eating lunches. Sometimes they talked about their house in Mexico when they were niños there. They laughed. Victor didn't hear everything, but he would tell Victor what they were saying. Sometimes they said funny things. Sometimes it wasn't funny. He didn't like that. What they said made his mother cry. She told him she was all right. Victor told him he would not have to stay here very long. Victor was going to bring the rings from the dresser and put them together like Victoria said. She was sorry. A big loud door opened and, "That's not my father. That's mi abogato and a woman. He talks fast. Victor says he is good, and I have to tell him and he will tell me. She has big tetas. They touch. Victoria's are bigger. He's going to tell them to let me go. I wonder if he'll tell them to get me a different room. Then I could walk and maybe have a pillow and a window to see. Maybe Victoria would visit then." We walked through the second door and a third that opened simultaneously to the right, entering visiting. A strong smell of disinfectant greeted us. Round tables with attached chairs filled the room. The far wall was lined with small cubicles with glass barriers and phones. The young woman from the lobby was at one, talking to a young man behind the glass, wearing a yellow wristband, a sign of Northerner gang membership. I recognized a public defender talking to an in custody at one of the tables. He looked up and we exchanged nods. His gaze moved quickly to Brenda. A female guard sat at one of the tables with a clipboard. Caesar was at the far end of the room with his hands down by his waist, obviously restrained. "Shield, you're here for Navarro?" the female guard asked. I nodded. "This is my paralegal," I said, indicating Brenda. She motioned us to Caesar's table to the right. "You need to watch what you're wearing in here," she commented to Brenda. Brenda and I walked towards Caesar. "All we need is to play dominoes for the trifecta," I whispered. "What?" "Caesar's, round table, dominoes." "A pizza joke, Jack?" She poked me. "Hello, Caesar," I said as Brenda and I sat down. "This is my assistant, Brenda. I wanted you to meet her in case I sent her to bring paperwork or a message." "Hello," Caesar said. "Hello, Mr. Navarro," Brenda replied. "Do you remember our conversation where I told you not to speak to anyone unless I introduced them and said it was okay?" "See, I no say nothing." "Good. Brenda is helping me with your case. If she comes to visit and I'm not with her, I want you to speak to her like you speak to me, okay?" "Okay. She won't give you legal advice, but she'll bring you messages and paperwork from me. If you have questions or need anything from me, you tell her and she'll tell me, okay? See? Normally I brought Brenda for interviews with male in custodies looking for a lawyer because she had a predictable motivating effect on most men, which was enhanced if they were incarcerated. Her natural, sweet nature, beautiful eyes and face and confident voice were calming. But it was the twins, she called them, and her tight shirts they were thinking about when I told them, "I can't always come to the jail to meet with you. So sometimes you will be working with her. Are you okay with that?" They always answered yes, sometimes before I finished the sentence. I rarely sent Brenda to the jail after I was retained. Everything my client needed to hear, they needed to hear from me. 9 times out of 10 that happened in court when it mattered. I was already hired in Caesar's case, so I wasn't fishing for a retainer. I brought her because this case was going to take time, and I might actually need her to drop something off or relay a message. I wanted her to be comfortable. I also wanted to see Caesar's reaction and get Brenda's perceptions on how he presented himself, both for her and thinking ahead to a potential jury. As we pulled out of the parking lot, turning left to head back through the farm and dairy roads, I looked to see if the recently freed man was anywhere in sight. He wasn't. Switching on the radio, Crazy Conscious by Compass played. I tapped my fingers to the Jamaican beat. "What do you think?" I asked. "He's definitely different," Brenda replied. "I don't know if he understands what's going on, but that thing about the wedding rings was—" She trailed off. "Crazy?" I asked. "Well, yeah." I sang the opportune words of the song on the radio to her. "I'm crazy, girl, here it comes. Crazy Conscious." "You, stop," Brenda pushed me. "That's too creepy." "Well, it's sad for sure." I don't think he qualifies for a 1368 competency evaluation. He knows he's in custody and that he's charged with killing his wife and that we go to court on specific days. But he also seems to think his wife is still alive. Does he, though? Do you think he's playing us? I shook my head. I don't. I've been fooled before. He just doesn't seem that clever. I sighed deeply. This is a difficult one. On the one hand, he doesn't seem like a violent guy. But he does have that recent probation case where he committed a battery because of sex. This case is about violence and sex. There's a lot of emotion in sex. That can be inflamed. Passion. Then this case starts to sound like second-degree murder instead of first. Like he got all fanned up and acted on that rather than thought, this isn't right, but I'm going to do it anyway. I could see real emotion in his face. He loved her, Brenda said. I saw that too. Till death do us part. Oh my God, Jack, stop. What's his defense? I'm not sure. I'm worried a jury won't like the facts. They may not even care about explanations. Might just decide, lock him up on the highest charge. Keep that monster away from us, you know. Brenda sighed. The circumstances aren't good. But does it really matter? Brenda asked. I mean... I stared at her. You're off the jury, I said, nudging her. We do what's right. Do you think David will make an offer? Maybe he will if he's... I paused for effect, then sang along to the music. Crazy, crazy conscious, doing the right things. Aye, she squealed, pushing my shoulder. In the right way, crazy, conscious. The road ahead stretched out straight and seemingly endless, lined with cornfields and the occasional farmhouse. What are you thinking? Brenda asked, her voice soft, concerned. Something's missing. Like what? Brenda asked. I sat silent, trying to figure it out. Brenda turned down the radio. We'll figure it out, Jack. We always do. Let's get some dinner. How about Big Bang? Brenda suggested. We pulled into the parking lot of the Thai restaurant, its neon sign flickering in the twilight. As we walked inside, my phone buzzed in my pocket. I glanced at the screen. A blocked number. I hesitated, then answered. This is Jack Shield. I heard breathing. Then the call terminated. Must have been a wrong number, I said to Brenda.